and a warm good evening to all tuned in. St Kitts and Nevis has reported 39 confirmed cases of COVID-19 between March 2020 and present. 36 cases have recovered fully, and so we only have 3 active cases. Some of our CARICOM member states have experienced increases in the number of COVID-19 cases, and some member states have moved from sporadic cases to wider community spread. There have also been reports of the new variant strains of the SARS-CoV-2 variants in the region. Tonight, my opening remarks will try to cover 3 objectives. 1, provide you an update on the SARS-CoV-2 variants. I'm going to provide you an update on the COVID-19 vaccines, and we will summarize the way forward. Now, there are 3 SARS-CoV-2 variants of public health concern. They are the UK variant, the South African variant, and the Brazilian variant. The UK variant was identified through viral genomic sequencing in the United Kingdom in November 2020. It is defined by multiple spike protein mutations. This variant has been identified in at least 3 Caribbean member states so far and in over 50 countries globally as of January 20. It is estimated to be 50 to 75% more transmissible than previous variants, but does not appear to increase reinfectivity. There is realistic possibility that infection with the UK variant is associated with an increased risk of death compared to infection with the non-variant virus. The second variant, the variant identified in South Africa, was first identified in October 2020. As of January 19, 2021, it has been identified in at least 20 countries or territories. It presents with a different pattern of multiple mutations of the spike protein. It is more transmissible than previous variants. There is emerging evidence for the potential for reinfection. The third variant was first identified in December 2020 in Brazil. This variant has been identified in at least 3 countries or territories. There is the potential for increased transmissibility as well as reinfection. In essence, these variants are more transmissible. 2 are associated with an increased prospect of reinfection, and 1 seem to be associated with a higher case fatality rate. However, so far, there appears to be no change regarding the impact of the COVID-19 vaccines, says Dr. Kate O'Brien, the WHO Director of Immunization, Vaccines and Biologicals. Scientists are conducting ongoing research on these 3 SARS-CoV-2 variants regarding transmissibility, reinfection, and case fatality rates. Based on the foregoing, the aim is to keep these 3 variants away from our federation for as long as possible. Since we do not know exactly when either of the variants will cross our borders, we must maintain the COVID-19 prevention and control measures, which include wearing face masks when in public, maintaining good hand hygiene, maintaining physical distance, and avoiding large gatherings of people. These measures will prevent the spread of any of these variants if on island. Now I will turn my attention to the COVID-19 vaccines development, approvals, and access. There are 63 vaccine candidates in clinical development, and there are 63 vaccine candidates in clinical development, and 16 are being tested in phase 3 trials. 13 vaccines with phase 3 trial data are at various stages of the World Health Organization emergency use listing process, or they have expressed interest. So far, the World Health Organization has only approved one vaccine. That's the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. The AstraZeneca and Oxford vaccine is expected to be approved in the first week of February. There are some Caribbean countries that have already approved vaccines, and these include the United Kingdom Overseas Territories, Anguilla, Bermuda, British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, Montserrat, and the Turks and Caicos, and Guyana. The Federation of St Kitts and Nevis has signed on to the Kovacs Facility, which is a global mechanism developed to help participating member states gain access to COVID-19 vaccines. The Federation just received a letter from the Managing Director of the Kovacs Facility office, dated January 29, 2020, providing information regarding the first tranche of the assigned COVID-19 vaccines to satisfy Kovacs's agreement with the Federation. We were informed that St Kitts and Nevis can expect to be distributed an indicative number of doses of the AstraZeneca and Oxford University vaccine. We have been allocated 21,600 doses that will provide coverage for approximately 20% of our population. The start date of delivery is as early as mid to late February. However, this is subject to WHO listing approval process and completion of the next steps. The next steps include things like implementation of our vaccination deployment plan and regulatory preparedness. The estimated supply schedule indicates that 25 to 35% of this amount will be supplied in the first quarter and 65 to 75% in the second quarter of this year. The Federation is seeking access to COVID-19 vaccines through two other mechanisms. Access to the COVID-19 vaccine is crucial to curbing the spread of COVID-19 infections and restarting our economy here in our Federation, the economy in the region, and globally. So what's the way forward? We must continue with the St Kitts and Nevis health and travel protocols, which includes submission of the pre-arrival RT-PCR COVID-19 test done within 72 hours of travel and completion of the 14 days quarantine or vacation in place. As a federation, we must continue to maintain border surveillance. We must monitor our borders. As a federation, we must maintain the COVID-19 prevention and control measures, wearing of the face mask, maintaining adequate hand hygiene, physical distancing, and avoiding crowds. As a federation, we must access COVID-19 vaccines. The plan is to access enough vaccines to provide coverage for at least 20% of our population in the first instance, and the ultimate goal is to attain a coverage of at least 70%. It would be ideal if we can achieve the herd immunity threshold, which in turn will reduce the risk of clusters of COVID-19 cases and community transmission. In closing, I want to share a personal experience. On January the 7th, 2021, I received a question via WhatsApp, and I quote, "If you have the choice," so this is a friend who sent me this question, and the question read, "If you have a choice of catching COVID-19 or taking the vaccine, which would you do now?" And my response was, I would choose the vaccine now. I want to share the rationale for my response. So if I were to get COVID-19, one of 5 things may happen to me. 1, I may recover without any symptoms, or I may have moderate symptoms. I may develop severe disease, I may end up in the intensive care unit, or I may die. If I were to take the vaccine, I am assured that it would prevent severe disease and death. And the chances of adverse effects to date seems relatively low. And so I repeat, my response is I would take the COVID-19 vaccine now. And so I implore each and every one of us to consider or reflect on this question. Try to get as much information as you can about the COVID-19 vaccine and choose wisely. #choose COVID-19 vaccine. I thank you.